Hello and welcome to this Season 4, Episode 6 review of LEGO Masters here in North America. We're very excited to talk about this latest episode. We got Garrett and Joe and myself, Mark. So this episode is called Is It Brick?
Is it brick or is it real?
Or is it a cake?
I was about to say, I was waiting for them to cut into one and it was cake.
Is it fake or is it fake?
This is literally a take on that concept.
It's a great concept.
But it's a great,
it's very entertaining
really
for
good.
the audience, whether you know LEGO or not. But also for the people who know LEGO to see, like, wow, that was really good or that was really bad.
Yeah, you had a rough time with that challenging replication of a one-to-one scale object. This is really like everything is exposed. You have time to see how good they are at really nailing these techniques to accomplish very challenging shapes. And some teams did great, some teams did okay
Not so great.
or not so great.
Yeah.
I'd say overall, though,
It was
most
a good
of them-
episode. I agree. I think this was some of their best builds.
I
as a
really
whole.
don't think there was a bad build. In all,
I
in all
agree
honesty.
with that, yeah.
They all looked really good.
Yeah.
Some were weaker than others, but they all, and like overall, very good for reproducing a real life object.
Yes, and a very entertaining episode based on some of the teams building these outrageously large projects in 10 hours was the build challenge time.
Unfortunately, though, there was a sad beginning to hear that Ben and Poppy had to go home because of
So
illness.
sad.
Because they were not only great people and super fun, they were good. They had some great builds. Their Scorpion one was really good.
They won that
the,
challenge.
The Volcano one. And they had some other good ones. So I was just kind of sad because of illness, because of the filming schedule. It's like they can't wait for them to get better. So it's like, it's so unfortunate they had to go home because of that. Because they could have won, potentially. Like, you never know.
They were a good team. I could have seen them in the top 3 at the
Easily.
least. I mean, it's like they were a very talented pair of builders, and they will be missed. Great job, you guys, for all
they
the
did
builds.
fantastic.
Anyway, but moving right along. So this episode started out with some inner monologue from Will and shenanigans.
Which was very entertaining.
Normally, I'm kind of like 50-50, but this one I was genuinely chuckling. Like I don't normally
funny.
emote while watching TV, but I was laughing.
Like,
And then Mom and Steven, who are going to be watching it later, were like, "What is happening? What's happening?" They wanted to know. So, no spoilers. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the shenanigans leading up to it. I think the challenge was pretty fun. Let's get into the build, shall we?
Cool.
First team that was, as part of the judging, was Emily and Kelly, and they had the clarinet build.
Yeah.
Because that's what they picked out of the room to replicate one-to-one. And I thought they accomplished it very well.
I agree.
It's not silver, but it's light bluish gray. They used a ton of really unique pieces, showing off their NPU skills. So what do you guys think about their build?
I think it was a really, really good build. I was surprised by how much detail they were able to cram into it. Yeah, they're using a lot of these, bar elements and these tinier elements, but the way they used them and the way they were able to recreate that like piping was so cool. I know one of the keys was one of the like angel wing pieces that were really cool.
They had fish. They had a mouse. They had some a
lot of stuff I wouldn't have thought of.
And I think they played it smart because if you go small, there's the danger of it's small, it's not ambitious.
Yes.
But they got something that was kind of small, but highly detailed.
Yes.
And that was why they ended up in the top 2, is because they picked a super difficult thing. It was small, didn't stand out, so it wasn't obvious to see it.
Yes.
And they just took their time with it, which was a smart move. Since they had so much time, they were like, all right, we can find the right piece instead of going, like some other teams were. So.
Yeah, exactly. Or just, like, will you physically be able to put down that many pieces like some teams?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's hard to tell whether or not the teams knew they would be spotted out from the room, but I know that they're trying to replicate that object as well as possible, so great job to them. Really good to see them kind of succeed in an episode when they've been trying so hard and just kind of landing in the middle a lot, so good for them. The next team that I have listed, I don't think this is the order of judging, was Sam and Nina with the rug.
That was something else, man.
Talk about the rug, Joe. What
man. Gosh, when I was watching, and I just watched this earlier today, and they're looking around, and you saw in the preview that that's probably what they were going to pick. But I was like, they actually picked it. And Will Arnett literally is like, I'm not even TV shocked. I'm just real shocked. And he's like, can I just say it? That's stupid. And I was like, that's the most real he's been in any LEGO Masters.
Will is being honest.
He's like, bro, that is stupid. And it was.
Yeah.
Like, it was that thing is huge. It wasn't like your little nice rug. That thing was huge. 9 by 10
It was an area
feet.
rug.
Yeah, was it 9 by 12 or 10? It
9
was
by
big.
10.
Yeah.
12 is what it was. And I was like, okay, so you have the golden brick. You're going to use it. As soon as they picked that, I knew they were going to use it. Because it was obvious. They could never get that done. And then, of course, you've got Chris and Robert over there going,
what if we grabbed the rug? And they're like, oh, we gotta grab the rug.
Right.
Tricked him. How do you feel about this, Garrett?
I think that was smart.
He's playing his villain arc so well.
He's great for TV.
He is so good.
I will say that.
This is a smash
I'm entertained.
hit. Yeah.
He's an entertaining character. He's like all in for that drama. So that's pretty good.
He's acting it up, and you can tell he's got a big smile on his face. And everyone else knows it, too, so they're not, like, actually annoyed or hating on him. They're like, oh, yeah, he's doing his villain bit. It's fun, yeah. So.
Yeah, that was highly entertaining.
As much as Sam and Nina were like, oh, well, he baited us into it, I mean, I think they all had a good time with it.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that they had the golden brick, they could do something crazy and ambitious and not have to worry about going home. Because they might have gone home, hypothetically, because it wasn't one-to-one.
Yes.
They had help on it, which was really kind of the other contestants to actually come and help out. Because there's some people, because they picked smaller stuff like the camera, the clarinet, they took their time. I'm sure they had like an extra hour or so. Because you don't need a full 10 hours for that.
Yeah.
Other ones, like the rug and the chair, down to the wire because they're huge and ambitious.
Yeah. And what really surprised me was when they started helping them build on it, because on my season, we had extremely strict rules about not touching anything on anyone else's tables. If you were to even touch the table, that's almost an immediate disqualification. So I was so shocked to see them just start helping. I'm like,
you can do
they're all
that.
going home. They changed it up. I think they were somehow there was a legal. They got over that hurdle that they were able to contribute and help on their build. Maybe it was just as simple as agreeing to.
It
let
might have
someone
just
else
been
help
like,
you.
listen, if they're gonna help you, you have to use the golden brick. And I'm sure at that point they already knew they were going to use it, so it's like, yeah, we're going to use it. And it's like, cool, that'll be great for TV.
Exactly.
And it was really kind. And of course, you know, it's good for TV, but the people who helped were actually wanting to help. They didn't just go up for TV.
They had much smaller builds. They probably had a little time left over to just walk over and help get pieces or put down pieces. So it was a cool moment. I really like that character of Lego Masters versus, you know, the
villain
and the actual drama. Like the villain stuff I'm actually here for.
It's so entertaining. Especially with what's his name? Chris
and Robert.
This is Lego Masters.
Speaking of Chris and Robert, they're the next build on the list here. We may as well start talking about the chair.
Their chair.
Yeah, it was so like they were tricking someone to doing probably the craziest thing, but
and then they got the next craziest thing.
Almost as crazy, especially with
the only thing crazier would have been the desk.
Oh no.
Yes,
that would have been just beyond crazy.
Imagine them pushing that out of the room like. No, they went for the chair, and honestly, this was a solid build.
It was.
Yeah. The feet, the shaping on the chair, it was a little blocky, like Amy said.
I think that definitely is the reason they weren't in the top two. Is like the bottom was very well designed, good wheels. The armrests were pretty good, but like you just had a and you can with Lego make that look a lot more rounded. They were just out of time. Like
10 hours.
Not in that amount of time they couldn't. So it was ambitious. So for the time they had, how big it was well done. Yeah. And it didn't fall over.
Yeah, they actually built it, completed it. It was just a little bit blocky because of time constraints. Yeah. Pretty awesome. So good job for them. And man, he was like whipping off his coat. They were running around. Like,
the drama was hilarious. Yeah. And then he like fell over and the camera was like, duh. Yeah, right. And he just stands back up. And I was like, duh.
I was like, oh, sorry.
That was the first time he's been without his jacket so far.
He's been so professional, but he got frantic.
Yes.
It was entertaining.
Yeah, I'm glad they decided to make the chair bright red. And I know they were talking about that because they were like, you know, it's dark not quite the same color. It's going to be spotted immediately. But if they had used, reddish brown or dark red, that chair would have shattered just from looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. So, they probably didn't have the right color pieces to do it.
That was my thought. Is like, there's no way they had enough dark red for that.
No
way.
That
dark red panels. I don't know if they even exist in that color and shape. But yeah, so they made it work with what they had.
And red's fine. It's not too crazy.
Good job to Chris and Robert.
I definitely was entertained by Will sitting in it though. That was one of the better ones. Like throwing down the TV was cool, but like when he sat down in the chair and it just goes that was pretty fun.
A great build and a great team dynamic from those guys. So the next team I have listed here is unfortunately Aubrey and Ryan with their TV build. This is, I think they had some of the most struggles with that screen. And
that's really what they faulted them on. Because if you look at the build, it looked great.
Yes.
Aside from the screen. And that's super difficult because it's an old timey one, so it's kind of got that bubbly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough to do
It's
with
a
Lego.
very rounded shape.
And I think they could have got it if they had started with it, but they did make the mistake of saving it for last, which means you rush it and it didn't end up as well. I still think it was a good build, and I am sad they went home because I really liked them. They were pretty good.
The back of their TV looked
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, it
the
looked
back
just
of
like
it had the vents, had all the hookups. I mean, looked great. The sides looked awesome. The
dials look good.
The dials looked phenomenal, and then their screen had gaps in it.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest
and
problems.
that's where the issue
It's
came
a little too
in.
narrow.
And you had that
wasn't
one
quite
spot with
rounded.
that weird line.
It looked like they kind of tried to like taper it in a way to try to make it look like it bubbled.
It didn't work.
And yeah, if they had started with the screen, I felt like
They would have been safe.
it would have been a way different build.
But that's part of Lego Masters. You don't have that. You look back and you're like, obviously. But like, when you're like, all right, we got to get building. We're
10
time's
hours
ticking.
Yep.
You go, all right, let's just start. And you go, oh, back of it. It's not as easy.
I don't know how to do this screen yet. We'll get back to it.
Yeah.
And then you have an hour left, and you're like, oh,
crap.
Exactly. But yeah, their build was picked first. We'll get to the whole challenge later, and they ended up in the bottom two, ended up going home. But we'll talk about all the judging and stuff in a minute. The next build, which was complete opposite story, was Paul and Nita with their telescope.
wow.
And they did a fantastic
Great
job.
choice because it's such a unique item. A telescope is cool. And
Challenging.
It's challenging, exactly. It's like, it wasn't the biggest, about this size probably.
Medium size.
And, oh my gosh, it's Ben! Hi,
Whoa!
Ben! It's Ben Sutherland for you guys.
Interrupting. Sorry, that's good.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just a good size, not too crazy. Good detailing though. So they really, I think that was it was the best choice really because the clarinet is probably my second favorite choice because it sits off in a corner. You don't notice it as easily.
Yep.
It's not huge and like, oh, well, that's obviously a Lego chair. And they just knocked it out of the park. It was their best build so far.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Garrett?
Easily. I think this was really the episode we got to see them shine.
Yeah.
And we really got to see what great builders they are.
Exactly.
Because that telescope looked like an
The
exact
telescope,
replica.
yeah.
Photo.
Same size, same proportions, same curves, same knobs and dials. I mean, they nailed that challenge to a T. To a T.
Fantastic job, Paul and Nita. And
Because there's been a few where I was like, I don't know if they're this good. But this was one they stepped up and showed they are good.
I feel like we haven't gotten as much screen time from them. And
that's why this was good.
I feel like now they have proven, hey, there's a reason we're still here.
Exactly.
Yeah, because we're down to we're halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good amount of people that are gone.
Yep.
So it's like, who's actually left and why are they still here? It's because they're actually pretty good.
Yeah. Paul and Nita, they're in episode 6. They've won is this their first win, I believe? Yeah.
Yes. They've been in the top 2, I think, before.
Possibly. I'd have to go back and look.
I
But
don't remember.
they've really upgraded their building game because when one of the builds that caught my eye was the baby in the crib. It was a little bit blocky. The motion was good, but everything was a little bit blocky because they were building such a big object.
They nailed this one.
This one, they have a little more focus.
Yep.
Great job.
Yep.
Speaking of focus, we've got Lewis and Alex with the record player, and this was a fantastic build.
So
and I think they got a little bit of extra flack from the judges.
Yeah,
Jamie was letting it have
when
it.
Jamie was like, "But your record's a little square," I was like, "Okay, Jamie,
Right.
all right, let's back off a little second." That was a moving record.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The edges aren't going to be perfectly because Lego doesn't have this size curves.
Yeah.
You
They
can do what
don't
you can
normally
with
have.
little wedges and stuff. They did a great job designing that disc. It looked great. Or record, not disc. My mistake.
Yeah.
And then the whole case as
Vinyl.
well. Yeah, it looked fantastic. I think it was better than the clarinet. And should have been the other top 2.
There you go. Yeah. It got some extra critique, but I think everything besides that record was spot on. It did not get spotted in the game, and they did a great job.
Only one with power functions, exactly, yeah.
Good job, Lewis and Alex. They're always just shy of the
They're
victory.
so
I know.
close.
They're
Yeah.
almost there.
And they're sneaky because I don't know if they've won. I think they won one.
I don't think they've won anything. They've always been second to Sam and Nina.
Oh, that's right. Which
They're the Zach and Wayne of this season.
Yeah.
They're good, but I think they're sneaky good, and they could easily sneak in and be like, "Wait, we're at the finals, and they're still here."
Yeah.
They're that kind of team. I feel like.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll get their time in the sun here
'Cause-
soon.
I mean, this is my first one on here, so I don't know how much y'all have talked about who you think's going to make it. I definitely think Chris and Robert are really good and will go far. Sam and Nina, they picked a very ambitious one, but as a
Probably.
whole, their stuff has been great. I
Yeah.
mean, they've won 3 challenges already.
Mm-hmm.
And we're only halfway through. So I think Sam and Nina, Chris and Robert, pretty clear that's like they could definitely, unless they have a really bad episode, which can happen, they're probably going to be in the finale. Chris and Robert, or not Chris and Robert, Lewis and Alex, they're probably going to be right there. That third one that you're like,
they're
wait,
really good.
They're still here.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I hope that they continue to do well.
Yeah. They're cool. Like they seem like nice teachers. They're not like schooling everybody.
Right.
Yeah, they're really nice guys
No,
in person too. So very excited to see them keep doing well. But I just want to see them get a chance to actually win a challenge. We'll see. We'll see if they can make it. But Allison and Melanie are the next team, and they had their camera, which from the surface looked pretty solid. However,
so small.
It was very small, and if there's one thing out of place, Amy's going to spot it, and she did. What do you guys think?
I think it looked really good. That looked like a Polaroid Land 70, I think.
I wouldn't know.
I owned one of those cameras.
Nice.
And so I think they did a really good job on recreating it. I think because it was the smallest in the room, yes, there are more details to notice wrong with it.
Yeah.
Once I noticed the lens was, a little tiny, in my opinion, to the front of the camera. That wire on the side, I don't know if they have flex tube. I would have used a piece of flex tube instead of one of those corrugated pieces.
Yeah.
A lot thinner.
A lot thinner. But overall, I mean, I think it was a good choice and a bad choice to pick that item. It's got detail to it, but also, they pointed out multiple times, you have the smallest build in the room.
Yeah.
And that'll get you a critique on when you have a giant rug or a giant chair.
I would say, listen, you have a chair.
Yeah.
And then you have a camera.
Now, I will say they did mention it now. This is like the first build they've done that isn't purple and pink and blue.
Good
So
for them.
I did like seeing them work in realistic colors and do something that isn't space fantasy. It actually showed they are competent builders.
Yeah, exactly. That was a solid recreation.
It did look good.
It's highly possible. And I mean, every challenge is different. That they're the one or two teams that aren't going to make it much longer. I think they're one of them. And while they did a good build, it was small.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you have 10 hours to make a camera this big, I mean, I could do that on my own.
Yeah.
It's not
Possibly. Yeah.
It's hard when you've got all the pressure stuff. But if they had picked a bigger thing, that we could have seen them go home. I feel like if they picked the TV, maybe the same struggles. I think they're good builders, but I don't think they're as good as some of these other ones. So I don't see them lasting much longer.
We'll see how it goes.
I mean, I don't know. This is just me
calling
predicting.
Making predictions. I like it.
It seems like a lot in this challenge. The bigger you went, the more error from
room for error
you had.
Yeah, they were maybe giving the large, ambitious build a little bit of slack.
Because they did a huge build.
You're going above and beyond and, doing something that you may not, that could get you kicked off.
And they just played it super safe, which
Exactly.
is why they were in the bottom two.
Yep. And we're going to get to the judging in just a minute, but there was a whole game involved.
Yes.
And I think that actually factored into the judging, too.
I do, too.
We had Stacy from Season 3. Her partner, Nick, wasn't there, but Stacy was there to help pick out some builds in 60 seconds, which is a fun concept, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Cool. It's super cool because it's like, if Will had done it, it's like he's there the whole time, right?
Yeah, he knows what he's looking for.
So it was cool they brought someone else in to look and see if they could point him out.
Exactly. She got 2 out of 7 builds, which I think is
pretty bad.
it's not great, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I think that's like, Stacy's been around life-size Lego objects. They made a bookcase. She knows that what's possible. So, but I think this is really a testament to how good the builds were.
It did kind of seem like the pressure got to her where she was more frantic.
A little
she
flustered.
She was like,
Why?
Because she was like, the TV. She got the TV,
Yeah.
but then she was like, dartboard. And it's like, no, that's definitely just a normal dartboard. So it's like, I think the pressure got to her a little bit, and that's why she didn't find as many. She was more just like looking around instead of going,
A little overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I didn't expect them to have her stand 300 feet away
I
from
thought
it.
she would be able to go low.
I thought she was going to walk around the room.
Because think about it. From her angle, she could barely see the chair.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was behind the desk.
So I was kind of like, picking the bigger objects now puts you at the downfall because she can't walk through and be like, oh, that clarinet or that telescope.
But that rug also avoided gaze until the
I
last.
think the whole reason is it's a rug and it's on the floor. She didn't look down because she's looking at all this stuff.
Looking at all the walls.
Yeah.
And
interesting strategic choice from Sam and Nita. Anyway, so that was a fun twist. I think it was well executed. Added to the judging. It's like obviously the TV stood out the most. So.
I think it was a good episode. I'd love to see them bring that back next season as well. That would be super cool.
Bring back guest stars like that. Bring back past people.
It's
cool.
I mean, the winners is cool, but also just any contestants. Like when we got what was it, Boone in was that the Christmas special?
Yeah.
But he was part of the team. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah, hopefully more regular season appearances from people we know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, and celebrities are fun too, but we like Lego Masters characters too.
It's the people watching Lego Masters that are going to be like, oh my gosh, that's that other Lego Master, and then it's cooler. Celebrities are fine.
I'd rather see past contestants come in for a challenge than Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
I mean, Chris Pratt was pretty cool.
I mean,
but
you also can watch any movie with Chris Pratt versus seeing more of somebody like Nick and Stacey.
It's just like you're a normal dude, but you won Lego Masters, so it's like you're cool for Lego people.
In the Lego
normal people,
universe.
not so much.
But as far as the judging and how everything played out this episode. We've got the golden brick was used, obviously, and I think that was probably good because
definitely good.
It was smaller and it didn't get picked right away, but they had problems with it. So it's like I think that they were wise to use it. So.
They would have been at least in the bottom two, so they would have lost it anyway. So it was definitely the right call, and I'm sure they had that in the back of their mind when they picked such an ambitious thing. Like, listen, if we can't do this, we're good because we can use the golden.
They'll get it back next week.
But that's the thing. They did it last time.
They'll get the golden brick back next week.
That would be amazing for TV if they did that.
Do you think the golden brick will show up next week or the week after?
I don't think next week.
I think it'll be the week after because they already brought it back 1 week after.
This is episode 6. They still got a couple more that they can
use it on.
Drop it and then use it. So we'll see how that plays out. I wouldn't be that surprised if it showed up, but I wouldn't be surprised if they gave it a break after having great drama in the beginning of the season. But so the top 2 ended up being Paul and Nita and Emily and Kelly, 2 teams that I don't think have been in the top 2.
I don't think so.
And I'd have to double check that, but I know that Emily and Kelly, I think that was their first appearance, and Paul and Nita, I believe so as well. So cool to see 2 teams that have kind of been under the shadow of like Paul and Nita, Chris and Robert, Lewis and Alex. They're now moving ahead to get some sunshine. It's great. So and eventually Paul and Alita were picked as the winner, which I think I agree with.
I totally agree with. I mean, the only thing that would have been close for me was the record player, but they weren't even in the top 2.
Yeah. So
but I definitely think it was the best.
Very well deserved.
Builds.
Excited to see that for sure. And then bottom 2 was we had Aubrey and Ryan, and we had Allison and Melanie. And I think this makes sense given what we saw in the episode in the edit.
They put a lot of emphasis, of course, in the edit on that screen. And the whole reason is obviously because they went home. When you're editing, you do that.
You know what's happening.
But I still think, honestly, it was better because it was more of an ambitious thing. And I think the reason was, like you said, I think the game had part of it. And because she saw that first, they were like, oh, yeah, there you go.
That's nail in the coffin.
So I think that's what caused them to go home over the other ones.
Yeah. So, and then Allison and Melanie were getting, noticing all the details on a small build, and that's what put them in the bottom.
Small,
so, and it's unfortunate, but I think that makes total sense. I know Chris and Robert looked really surprised, but at the same time, I think the judges were giving them a lot of credit for a massive build and a well-accomplished build.
Absolutely.
So I think that's why they were safe this week. But for the next week, we have another really fun-looking challenge. You got the handbags and the Brick Chic magazine. Who's going to win the cover shot is high fashion. And when they started talking about high fashion, you saw the magazines. I'm like, are they going to do like outfits or hat challenge like we did for season 2?
I know, I was kind of hoping so.
But no, they're doing their own spin on it. It's handbags, and that's pretty funny.
It's going to be hilarious. And of course, we got some preview clips, and there's some funny pictures they're doing.
So Alex is having some fun on the beach.
I was like, wow, this is going to be entertaining.
Exactly.
So I'm excited for next week.
And then it looks like Allison and Melanie were having some trouble based on the clips. So
what did I say?
Yeah.
I mean, if they go out.
That's your predictions there.
That's my prediction.
Yeah, but another great episode. Looking forward to the next one. Appreciate you guys giving us your thoughts.
Definitely.
Are we making any bold predictions for who's winning right now? Because I like your take on this, Joe. From right now, what we've seen.
That's my top 3.
Top 3 was going to be
Alex and Lewis, Chris and Robert, and Nita and Sam.
Yeah, pretty solid picks. I think I would probably go with the same. However,
Paul and Nita are sneaky though. They could
Yeah.
sneak. They could easily, if one of the other teams has a bad week, be that team.
yeah, we'll have to see how it shakes out. It's you just need one bad episode to go home.
Mhm.
As you can see from like Aubrey and Ryan, just you're gone. If you don't nail one thing, they pick it first in the
Let's say
game.
season 3. What were the 2 guys that went home on the water fountain one?
Oh, Brendan and Greg.
They
yeah.
were great builders, and I thought they were going to win it, but they had the one bad episode,
Yep.
and that's all it takes. You
Yep.
could have the best builds the whole time, but if you have one bad episode, you're
That's
going
it.
home.
Yeah, we'll see who has a bad episode next week. But
That's
don't
right.
forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you then. Bye bye.
Peace.